Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, talking about dating, courtship. What do you think the standards ought to be? The Duggar girls aren't going to hold hands till they get engaged. They're not going to kiss till they get married. Follow up on, and it's 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Close the loop on that story about the spelling bee I brought to you last week. Remember how it was tied after 66 rounds? They went out and got another 20 words, just picked them at random from the dictionary. It was still tied. So they finally got some more spelling words from the people that run the thing, and they finally got a winner. This is in Missouri. After 95 rounds, they finally got a winner to the spelling bee. So 95-round playoff between a 5th grade girl and a 7th grade boy, and the boy wound up winning in the end. Also, another development or another chapter, I brought you that story a month or so ago about a guy that had eaten nothing but McDonald's food for a month, and he lost 37 pounds. Remember that? He didn't eat anything but stuff that's on the menu at McDonald's, and he lost 37 pounds. Well, he's kept on the McDonald's diet. He's now lost 56 pounds. He's up to 56 pounds lost in 2 months. And again, and he's also saying, look, his total cholesterol level is down from 249 to 190, including a 25% decrease in the bad cholesterol, the LDL, and also his sodium levels and blood pressure are absolutely normal. And what he reiterates in here, weight loss is very simple. It's just a matter of calories, period. That's it. Calories and maybe some modest exercise. Eat 2,000 calories a day or less, you're going to lose weight. This guy exercises, walks 45 minutes a day, but it's all about the calories. All right, well, let's go to the phones. We got some people waiting to talk about this issue of courtship and dating. I got some other issues in this general area of marriage and family I'll bring to you, but let's take some phone calls first. 888-589-8840. Let's start with Keith in Vail, North Carolina. Keith, welcome. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Brian?
Good. How are you?
On the courtship thing, other than what they're aiming at, and I agree with, is physical purity.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept is a lot of times we talk about why even dance close to a sin. If the sin is ultimately giving yourself over, winding up in bed and giving yourself away that way, as all of us can remember when you're teenagers, the more you delve into that, the harder it is to resist that temptation.
Right.
So the concept of let's don't even hold hands, let's don't kiss, let's don't get into that, we'll save that for the marriage. There's a good degree of wisdom to that. A lot of times they'll say, why dance as close to sin as you can without crossing the line, which the Bible says flee fornication. It doesn't say kind of get close and kind of see if you can dance around it a little bit and get away with this, that, and without crossing the line. It says flee it.
Yeah, and sidle up to it and see how close you can get to the fire without falling in. Yeah. And the Proverbs has a proverb in there about a guy, you put charcoals in your lap, you're going to get burned. I mean, it's the same kind of idea.
Yep. And then the other part of it is, I've heard this philosophy, I don't know if you've ever heard of Benson Davis. He has an excellent talk on this about 7 biblical truths violated by Christian dating. And he talks in there, and I'd never thought about it, but he backs it up with a lot of biblical support. The heart was designed, a woman's heart is designed to be given away to one person. And the philosophy of, this comes from a biblical worldview that God is sovereign. He knows who your spouse is. They're out there somewhere. And if we're obedient and we trust him, he'll bring that person into our lives. We don't really have to go trying to find it. And, I'm not saying you just sit around and do nothing. But a lot of people, they consider the dating scene, the way it is in our culture now, is kind of recreational dating.
Mm-hmm.
And he poses the ideal of what we're teaching kids to do when we play the boyfriend-girlfriend game. And it starts very young. I mean, you have adults looking at 4-year-olds and saying, hey, have you got a little boyfriend yet? You got a little girlfriend yet? And he poses that that's kind of a dangerous thing to do because what we're doing, he says, little Johnny dates Susie and everybody thinks they're a great couple, then they break up. Mm-hmm. And Susie's devastated. Then little Susie starts dating, George, and everybody thinks they're great. Then they break up. And he says that our culture of recreational dating or trying to play the field until you find the right one is actually training our kids to break up, not to stay together, instead of waiting for that one. And so he talks a lot about giving the heart away, and a young man who allows a girl to fall in love with him without the intention of marrying her is kind of defrauding her. Because just like you said, and they're talking there, that's somebody's future wife.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if a young man allows the girl and kind of plays the game, I love you, and gets deep into that and wraps up even without physically, but gets into the emotional relationship and then breaks her heart, he's broken the heart of somebody else's wife, and then just that talks a lot about the emotional and spiritual damage that's done by kind of this recreational play in the field instead of praying it through, having the families involved, taking their time, praying about God, is this the right match, talking about, are we evenly yoked? Do we believe in the same things? Are we from the same denominations? Are we from the same religion? Just kind of a more prayerful and steady and progress to the altar instead of just going out there and searching the field.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you. Thank you for that, Keith. And, I've had Mike McManus on this program before, and he's talked about cohabitation. That's a little bit different what we're talking about here, but basically it's people who move in together, but people who have sex together before they get married. And he's basically making the same point. Keith was talking about just marriage, about dating and courtship, not necessarily sexual intimacy. But Mike McManus was saying, look, if couples have sex before marriage, they move in together to kind of do a trial run. It just turns out to be like a training ground for divorce, because 85% of the couples that cohabit wind up breaking up. So it's not marriage. It's not a test run for marriage or a trial run for marriage. It's a trial run for divorce. That's what you're setting yourself up for. All right, let's go to Daniel, Rockwall, Texas. Daniel, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hey.
How are you today? I'm a firm believer in abstinence. And this young lady that has a boyfriend, she doesn't want to hold hands and doesn't want to kiss while she's engaged with this guy. I just want to say it is perfectly okay to do that. She has a very strong self-control about herself, not wanting to hold hands or kiss while you're engaged. So I just want to say wish you all the best, and God bless you in your endeavors.
All right. Well, good. Thank you, Daniel. And, and she, I thought the whole family of the girl showing some courage to go on Fox and Friends. I mean, that's the most widely watched cable news channel in the country. I mean, nobody's watching CNN anymore. Nobody's watching MSNBC anymore. Nobody's watching CNN. So you go on Fox and Friends, a lot of people are going to see it, and they had the courage of their convictions to say, look, this is the way we're going to handle it. And I observed this in the counseling I did with young couples, and it's an interesting thing to watch. But my observation is that when a couple that's dating, when they begin sleeping together, their relationship stops developing at that moment. It's like everything is frozen in time. It is frozen in place. The relationship does not develop 1 inch beyond whatever point they had reached in their relationship prior to the time when they began to sleep together. And that's one of the reasons in God's economy, I believe, he says, look, I want you to wait until you're married to come together for sexual intimacy, because if you wait in my economy, you follow my design, your relationship can grow from that point forward. It will expand. You will flourish. You will explore new horizons together. And all that gets closed off from you if you experiment with sexual intimacy too soon. All right, let's go to Andrea in Grenada, Mississippi. Andrea, welcome. Andrea, what's on your mind?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I'd like to say I'm so enjoying this topic. I had this conversation with a friend of mine this week, but what I brought up to her was that one thing that I think is missed, and when we teach our children not to have sex before marriage and to save themselves, is that the success of the marriage is not predicated on that one act or lack of that act. I am a wedding planner, and I see couples in various stages. Some have kissed, some have not kissed, some have lived together, some have had children. But I see, very unfortunately, that the one who thought that my marriage is going to be absolutely blessed and perfect simply because I did not have sex before marriage, I've seen some of them get divorced. So something has been missed, along the way. And I just think it's so important that while we are teaching that we remind them there are other tenets. You've got to do more work than not just avoiding sex.
Sure, that's just one part of the relationship. All right, listen, I appreciate that, Andrea. Thank you for that call. Let's go to Chris, Port Lavaca, Texas. Chris, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. First thing I wanted to say, Song of Solomon says, true love, I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
Well, that's right. You take your time. You're doing fine.
Okay. Don't awaken love until it's ready.
Yes.
And the lady just before me talked about how she didn't have sex before marriage. Well, when I was 14, I got with this girl. I thought I was in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
We were planning like getting married in 20-something. You know, when I'm 20-something, we'll get married.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ended up fooling around and started having sex, and it turned out that became all it was about eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you know, she acted like something was wrong, and I was like, "What's wrong?" Because I know I was a guy, I guess, and I thought things were, you know, dandy. But that wasn't the truth. And the thing I found out from it is that, you know, when you give yourself away, my youth pastor used to tell me a lot about soul ties or soul tie. When you get with somebody and you give them that piece of you, they always have that.
Yeah, you know, and the way
always
C.S.
did it.
Lewis put it, and I agree with the way C.S. Lewis put it, Chris, is that every act of sexual immorality, sexual intimacy, put it that way, every act of sexual intimacy must be eternally enjoyed or eternally endured. And that's what you're talking about. There's some kind of bonding that takes place that has lasting implications for the two people that involve themselves in that way.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, well, listen, I appreciate it. You know what Chris is, thank you for the call. What Chris is kind of talking about is something that we had talked about a little bit earlier in this segment. It's again, just an observation of mine. I don't know that I have any explicit scripture backing for this, but, you know, I saw this in the counseling I did with young couples. It's like when they weren't married, if they got involved sexually, and we had Andrea, the wedding planner, so look, you know, saving yourself for marriage is not the only thing that's central ingredient to a successful marriage. I absolutely agree with that. You got communication, all kinds of things to learn how to work on. But couples that get involved sexually before they get married, that's where their relationship stops growing. Right at that moment, it's like there's some kind of I don't know, pesticide gets dropped on the thing, and it stops the growth of the relationship right at that point. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back.